Good afternoon. It is indeed a privilege to address you this evening at the closing ceremony of the Climate Action Symposium. Over the past 2 days, this symposium has brought together scholars, practitioners, policymakers, and community representatives to consider a critical question for our nation: how we adapt to climate change and secure our future through resilient water and agricultural systems. Sri Lanka is a country with fertile land, abundant rainfall, and a hydraulic civilization that extends back more than 2 millennia. The indigenous tank cascade systems, and I understand yesterday the Honorable Minister had asked us not to use the term tank because it conveys such a cold technical term, whereas our waver is something much more. So our waver, built by our ancestors, remind us that balance between people, water, and the environment is not a new goal, but a legacy we must protect. Today, as we face the challenges of climate change, extended droughts, erratic rainfall, floods, and the vulnerabilities of smallholder farmers, it is the same spirit of ingenuity and resilience that must guide us. One example of this is the Climate Resilient Integrated Water Management Project, known as CRIWMP. And since 2017, this project has directly benefited more than 780,000 people and indirectly reached over 1.1 million across Malwatuoya, Yarnoya, and Mioya river basins. Sri Lanka's climate finance needs are closely linked to its broader development trajectory. The country's vulnerability to climate shocks directly threatens economic stability, food security, and livelihoods. Meeting its NDC mitigation targets alone requires nearly $11 billion, while transitioning and adapting economy will demand $7 billion annually until 2050. Under the Climate Prosperity Plan, which assumes greater ambition for transition and adaptation, the cumulative additional investment required is projected at $60.9 billion by 2030. As Sri Lanka moves towards NDC 3.0 with increased ambition, it is clear that efforts to mobilize climate finance at scale must be intensified. To this end, the National Climate Finance Strategy 2025-2030, recently approved by the Cabinet of Ministers, provides a clear framework to mobilize, access, and channel resources for adaptation and mitigation. The strategy identifies pathways for Sri Lanka to secure funding for climate action and outlines the enabling environment required to implement these solutions, specifying where and how they can be applied. This marks a milestone, positioning Sri Lanka to systematically leverage international support and scale up domestic investments. The government of Sri Lanka's policy priorities are well placed to leverage this momentum. Our focus areas include adaptation in rural development, integrating climate resilience into the Prajashakti National Rural Development Program, building on lessons from this project, the CRIWMP. Sustainable agriculture and water security, which requires expanding climate-smart agriculture, cascade management, and water governance reforms. Ecosystem-based adaptation, restoring forests, wetlands, and watersheds to mitigate climate impacts. Disaster risk reduction and early warning, strengthening preparedness and community-based response systems. Just transition and green growth, promoting renewable energy, green jobs, and inclusive development. Allow me to highlight 3 reflections that I believe should guide us beyond this symposium. First, the centrality of integrated water management. Water is not merely a resource. It underpins our food systems, public health, and economic resilience. The integrated cascades approach demonstrated by CRIWMP should now inform broader river basin management policies across the country. Second, the role of communities in resilience. Top-down policies alone will not secure our future. True resilience emerges when local communities, especially women and youth, and we heard how youth are moving away from agriculture, are empowered to manage resources, adopt climate smart agriculture, and innovate with their livelihoods. Thirdly, the necessity of sustained investment and knowledge sharing. Climate change is not a challenge that can be addressed within the lifespan of a single project. The knowledge generated through CRIWMP must be institutionalized, replicated, and scaled. Sri Lanka must continue to invest in climate-resilient agriculture, water infrastructure, and digital technologies for early warning and resource planning. Equally important, we should share our lessons with other countries in the region and learn from their experiences, contributing to the global discourse on transformative climate adaptation. And I'm so pleased to see so many academics here and the partnership with the University of Peradeniya, the Faculty of Agriculture and the Faculty of Engineering, which I think would be a really great model for us to take these lessons beyond our shores. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this symposium, Food, Water and Climate Security through Integrated Local Water Management, Lessons Learned, is highly relevant at this moment in history. Around the world, nations are grappling with the complex intersections of climate change, food security, and sustainable livelihoods. In Sri Lanka, through the experience of CRIWMP, we have shown that with the right partnerships between government, international agencies, and local communities, we can pioneer solutions that are both nationally significant and globally relevant. Looking ahead, our government remains committed to building on these achievements. We will continue to mainstream climate resilience into national policies, strengthen intersectoral coordination, and promote investment in sustainable agriculture and water management. Importantly, we will keep people, our farmers, women, and youth at the center of these strategies because resilience must be inclusive to be sustainable. Before concluding, I wish to express my gratitude to the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Land and Irrigation, to UNDP and the University of Peradeniya for convening this dialogue, and to all distinguished participants whose expertise and commitment have enriched this symposium. I would also like to acknowledge the support of the Green Climate Fund, whose financing has enabled the success of CRIWMP. While we have reached the closing of this symposium, in truth, this is not an ending, but a beginning. Allow me to digress a little from my prepared remarks. I am an anthropologist, and stories interest me. So much more than how the cascade system affects our irrigation or agriculture, what touched me was this collection, Ripples, which documents the stories of the lives of people, of our communities, linked with the cascade system. In our government, we have several ministers, including our Deputy Minister who is present here today, the Minister for Agriculture, and the President himself, who have grown up around these water systems, whose lives were bound with these water systems. I myself have been privileged to hear their stories. Many years ago, Minister Lal Kanta sat me down one day and explained to me how the water system, he grew up near Nuwara Vawa, and he explained to me how their lives paralleled the ebb and flow of the Nuwara Vawa, how with seasonal changes, how their agriculture practices adapted, how what they ate also adapted to the changing practices or the changing shape and the changing rhythm of the Vawa. The Vawa is not a static thing. It ebbs and flows. There are times when it's full, when the way it's used is very different, to times when it is dry and the water volume is less. The flora and the fauna that grow around each Vawa. Most importantly, the lifestyles that it nourishes. Our Vawas are not just systems of irrigation or engineering feats. They are closely linked to the lives of our people, to the hearts of our people, and to their very existence. So when we are protecting these, we are not just protecting a livelihood. We are not just looking at what it means to monetize these resources. This is about the lives of our people. This is about the traditions. This is about the culture that we grew up in. This is something that is very close to our hearts. So I think when we talk of Sri Lanka, when we talk about Sigiriya and we talk about all our other monuments, it is often easy to not talk about cascades. We don't talk about cascades and we don't talk about that system as also something that is so much a part of our heritage, so much a part of who we are. If you look at how our ancient kingdoms functioned and how they were organized, water was very much a part of their lives, their rhythm of life. Water games was not something that is new to us. All our ponds in Anuradhapura, all of these were also sites of leisure, sites of play, water sports. So from the beginning, this is very much a part of our heritage, and I think that is why this project is particularly important, because it's restoring not just livelihoods and resources and engineering feats, but it's restoring a cultural legacy, a heritage, and something that is close to the hearts of people. And that is why these stories are also immensely important, because our wavers, our cascade systems are also stories about our people, our communities, and our lives. So thank you for this project, and I really hope that it will continue, that it will become, that the lessons learned from this project will be carried forward, and that we can truly use the learnings from this project to preserve, protect, and strengthen a very important part of our heritage. Thank you very much.